Yo, what's going on everybody? Today what I want to talk about is what happens when you turn off mid-roll ads as a YouTube creator. But first, let's go for a run.
Out in stormy weather, I might have the blues, but nothing ever stopped me from dusting off my shoes. You might think you'll see me falling to the ground, but I threw up my umbrella when rain stops hitting down. Yeah! On a bad day, on a good day, I don't need no sunshine, 'cause I'm dancing with the rain. You will see me running, thinking I might be insane.
8.54 miles, 8 minutes, 45 seconds per mile, 136 beats per minute today. Getting out there for an easy run with a couple of strides thrown in there, a little bit of snow out, some low temperatures here in Chicago, but overall enjoying my run out in the Nike Zoom X Invincible. It's a really great shoe. I just kind of went out there and kind of lost track of time. A fantastic way to have an easy run. But today what I wanted to talk about is what happens as a YouTube creator when you turn off mid-roll ads. And just to give some more context to the discussion, this channel is a running YouTube channel. We talk about running shoes, running training, running gear, Bluetooth earbuds, and occasionally we also talk about kind of like the business side or like the analytics side behind the curtain, underneath the hood, whatever metaphor you want to use, about having a YouTube channel. But I think having that kind of like background and context of what this YouTube channel is going to be really important. The thing that I wanted to do specifically, ever since we started kind of in like hey, what's going on? All right, thank you. Now, the thing that I wanted to talk about very specifically today was something that I kind of had in mind ever since I had made the how much a 60,000 subscriber YouTube channel makes. And something that I talked about there was the idea that YouTube really cares about a lot of things, but one of the things it really cares about, the way to kind of like really accelerate growth and make it easy for YouTube to suggest your videos to more people, is if you have really high like watch duration and like ratio of like what percentage of the video are people watching. And that's something that I've been striving for a very long time, and it's kind of guided a lot of kind of my editing kind of ideas too. So the idea being like I can make a 10-minute video and people might watch it. I might be able to put some ads on that because it hits that 10-minute mark. But if I can make a 6-minute video that people love, then that's going to be more successful. YouTube's going to push it out, and I can, kind of like collecting more pennies that way, make more money in terms of revenue, but also just expand the reach, because right now it's pennies and I'm not really too worried about the pennies. I really want to just have more reach. And so that was my kind of like general presumption. And so I have to drill down from that presumption. I have a new hypothesis that I've been starting in 2021 where I've turned off the mid-roll ads. So if I wanted to increase my viewership, increase my reach, increase how much YouTube is pushing my content to other people as a creator, one of the things I want to do is remove all obstacles for people to watch a lot more of my content, to stay in the video. And so one of the things I thought was, what happens if I take out the mid-roll ads? I personally detest mid-roll ads. So I thought, I don't want to subject other people who are watching my content to that. And if I can get rid of that while still maintaining revenue, if it's not too big a hit, then maybe that's a good thing. And if they're not annoyed by the mid-roll ad, maybe that will keep people around for even longer. So that was kind of like the hypothesis. So I put it into effect. I don't know that I did it exactly at the beginning of the year in January 2021, but I did go back at some point and I turned off the mid-roll ads for all of the videos that I published in 2021. And now I'm going to let you guys take a look at some of that data. So we're looking at my YouTube studio right now, and you can see this is kind of like my dashboard view of what I normally see kind of when I log in. And I think one of the quick ways we can look at it, because right now it's only February, it's like the middle of February right now, so we're a little bit more than a month, maybe a month and a half into it. But this last 28 days number is pretty significant because it shows kind of how things have been progressing over the course of this experiment so far. So in terms of the summary that I get on the dashboard, it's telling me the last 28 days, views are up, but only by 2%. That's kind of like a normal fluctuation for me, but that 681 number seems like higher than the last time I remember looking at it. Watch time also is up. So those are like good things that I'm looking for in terms of like month over month, in terms, especially with the month that I turned mid-roll ads off versus the month where I had mid-roll ads on. Overall, though, revenue is down by 12%, down to 25.63.73. So like it kind of looks like it makes sense. People are watching longer. I'm not making as much money because I'm not putting those ads in front of as many people. But overall, the thing that I wanted to tweak and adjust in terms of like the watch durations, well, I'm not sure if the watch durations are up. I still need to look a little bit deeper into it. But from an overall like zoomed out metric, the watch time is up and the views are up. So those are good things. So let's take a look a little bit deeper into it and we can kind of like see what I'm talking about. So one of the things, if we look at this, and it's kind of set up to some older videos because I've already been kind of looking back. One of the things we can do is we can look at like an older video of mine to see like what I was talking about. Now, none of these videos were particularly like stand out in terms of like I could see where the mid-roll ad normally tends to be, and it's definitely affecting my views. So that's kind of the one thing, is like it wasn't very clear that this had a huge effect. The main thing being, I think that not all videos that I have get mid-roll ads on it every single time. So it's not like turning them on or off meant that like 100% of the videos before had mid-roll ads and now 0% of them have it. So it's not quite as clear. The data is a little bit muddled, but here's kind of like a couple ways to look at it. So let's take a look at this video published on December 11th. This one, if we look at it, does have the mid-roll ads turned on. And so this is kind of like an average video for me. If you look at it in terms of this video versus typical performance, you know, it's kind of like right in the middle. And we could see the average view duration for this was 4 minutes and 9 seconds, or 44% of this video, which I feel like is really good. What I normally shoot for is like 40% or higher in terms of view duration for the entire video. And in this one, there's no significant like dip. I mean, there's a little bit of a dip here towards the end, but if there are significant kind of trends as far as YouTube is concerned, it usually lists them like right in this section, and the key moments for audience retention. And one thing is that the audience retention does tend to like drop quite precipitously from the beginning. It comes down to 60% kind of like by this point in the video. And I don't know if that's normal or not, but that's also, it tends to be about how long my B-roll intros are. So maybe that's a signal that I need to tighten those up a little bit more, or people are skipping ahead. And I do feel like people might be skipping ahead a little bit because there's that little spike up here at a point that corresponds to the part where I start talking about the run itself and I'm done with like the intro B-roll stuff. So I do put the notes, the chapter notes in the YouTube description, so that way people can easily skip ahead. And so it looks like people are doing that for this particular video. But once they're watching, you know, the view retention is slowly decreasing, but at a rate that I'm pretty comfortable with. I wish it kind of would give you the instantaneous slope at any of these points, but I don't think that there's a way to really know that on YouTube. But I feel like overall I'm doing pretty good with this type of video, even though this one has the mid-roll ads turned on. So let's take a look at another one that didn't perform like quite as well. I was just looking at it. Which one was it? I think this one was actually in January though. So let's take a look at one in January just to kind of compare of a video that I didn't think performed as well, even though I turned mid-roll ads off. And that was the Pamu Quiet Mini. So let's take a look at this one. This one's for February 5th, so not that long ago. It hasn't been out as long. It's been a week since it's been out, so not as much data to kind of pull from. But so far it tells me like this video just really isn't doing that well. It might not be a time that people are really looking for earbuds right now. I feel like a lot of that happens in towards like the end of the year, around gift giving time. So kind of the timing wasn't that great for this video, but here what we can see is that the average view duration is 5 minutes, which is really good. I'm pretty excited about that. 5 minutes for a video that's not tending to get a lot of views is good, but the average view percentage is still pretty low. So I feel like overall, you know, for a video that's not performing that well, I think this is doing okay. And here's where I feel like turning off the mid-roll ads help. Maybe this isn't the best video that I've ever made. Maybe it's the subject matter. Maybe my execution isn't that great. I'm going to say it's probably a combination of both, or like the timing, like all those things. Plus, maybe it's not one of my best pieces of work. But I do think that like by turning the mid-roll ads off, hopefully I can like slide in some extra view duration from people that are just like, you know what, like I turn on YouTube videos and like I'm doing work, and then if there's an ad, I skip it. That might tell me like I am not really enjoying this, and I'll skip to something else. Maybe if there is no mid-roll ad, they just kind of keep watching because they're, you know, watching YouTube while doing something else anyway. So that's kind of like part of the goal, is to get some of that sneaky view time in there. But also I feel like, you know, if people are watching and consuming and still like tolerating the sound of my voice over a period of time, then, you know, they become familiar with me, and hopefully then they like me more and not less, although that's certainly possible too. And that'll make people want to just listen to me, watch me even more. So that's kind of the idea of just like making sure I can get that view time in, get more of that chance with any new viewer or returning viewer. So I feel like this could have been a way worse video, but hopefully because the mid-roll ads were turned off, more people are staying around for even longer than they would have, even though this is maybe not the best. So here's an example though of like that key moment for audience retention that I was talking about. The dip here is right here, and this is the dip happens like, you know, after about 40 seconds of intro. So I showed some of the footage of the earbuds and then me running for a little while, and I'm thinking at this point people are probably like, when's this guy gonna start talking about this earbud? And so they skip ahead, so there's a little bit of a spike, not enough that YouTube registers that as a spike, but I can see a spike there, and that corresponds to right when I'm starting to talk about the earbud. So that's kind of how I would look at like this kind of information. Another video, we'll take a look at just kind of one more, so you can get a sense of like how these things tend to go. So let's look at this one, also from last week, or a little bit more than a week ago, the Ultra Boost 21. This is one, again, that I feel like it's getting a lot of views, but I feel like the duration is not that great. So I'm getting way more views than usual on this one because it's a hot shoe, just came out, people are interested in it. Watch time is up by a lot. You can see compared to kind of like my usual band of performance, it's doing really, really well. Revenue looks really good for a week into a shoe release video. Let's take a look at the engagement though, and on the engagement, right now it's saying that the average percentage viewed is only 33%, so lower than kind of my goal of getting 40% on a video, which tells me I definitely could have shortened this one up. It's 12 minutes, 28 seconds, probably way longer than I need to talk about a Boost shoe anyway, and so, you know, that's all my fault. But if we look at the key moments for audience retention, here we've got that dip, and that's mainly at the end, so that's kind of like my outro, thanking everybody, you know, telling people other places they can find me, that kind of thing. So that's fine. I'm okay with having that outro, you know, dip there. That's also why I always try to keep, like, once I'm done talking, I try to like just speed talk through the end, wrap up the video, but like get through it quickly because people are ready to move on to the next video. But I do think that there are a couple of like little spikes and stuff in here. Here again is like right where I'm getting through the disclosure. I have that marked in the chapters that go underneath the video as well. And another spike right here where I listed the weights. If we play it, came in at 10.5 ounces. So I like right here, I listed the weights both for a couple of shoes in ounces and in grams, and I think I took it down too fast, and so what people had to do was like, oh, what was that? And they had to go back and watch it. So they had a little bit of a spike in here, and then I don't know what's going on here, that there's a little bit of a spike.
Do we make it big and chunky, or do we strip it down and save weight? This ear is definitely
people are looking at this little clip right here.
It's definitely a big and chunky.
So maybe they're rewinding and looking back at that. I looked at it and maybe they heard something. They were just like zoned out maybe a little bit, and then I said something that caught people's attention. So, you know, maybe they came back here, or it could just be a blip, something that, you know, goes away after more than like a week of data. It's still like kind of early to see what's going on. So let's take another look at this and see if I can zoom out a little bit and try and take another crack at kind of understanding what YouTube is really doing, or what mid-roll ads is really doing to my data. So if I come back up to the analytics menu and go to the revenue tab, I can come to this monthly estimated revenue screen and click on the see more. In here, I can look at a couple of things. So what I did notice here looking at some of my data is for January in 2021, what I did have was 474,000 monetized playbacks, which is very different than the month before that, but also very similar to November. So I don't know that that's necessarily a problem. I don't think that the drop from December to January is a big deal. I kind of feel like that tends to be normal in the running YouTube space. December is a pretty high view month because lots of people are looking for gifts, but I think comparing 474 in January is comparable, relatively speaking, to 474K in November. So with that in mind, let's take a look at that. So let's come up here and filter by the published date, and let's look at those November numbers. So I'll go to November 1st through 30th and hit apply. And the data that I want to look at is for a custom range of November, there we go, 1st through 30th. So I think what I'm doing is I'm looking at only the revenue that I got from videos published in November, if I'm understanding this data correctly. So if I am, then the estimated ad revenue from that time was $1,434 off of 200,000 monetized playbacks with a CPM of $12.98. That CPM seems pretty high. So let's change that publication date a little bit now, and let's get that filter back and publish date. I didn't mean to make that go away. But here we go. Now let's go from January. It's an additional day because January has 31 days versus November's 30, but let's just do month versus month just for the sake of simplicity here. I guess I could go 1 through 30 if I needed to, but let's take a look at that. And so what I'm seeing is that I've got $1,000, so $400 less of estimated ad revenue for January videos. So hopefully what I'm doing here is eliminating any of the other videos that are on my channel in terms of this kind of discussion of this revenue. So that revenue would be, it's like 14 to 4. So that's like a third down, 33% drop in revenue from that month. And the estimated monetized playbacks is down like 15%. That CPM is really low. So I'm not as worried about like the raw or number that's right here, the 1,400 versus the 1,000. Oh, that seems like a lot. But because I think that's a lot going to depend on the CPM, and that CPM is going to depend on like the types of videos and the demographics that they tend to target and that kind of thing. And I'm not really sure how to increase that CPM. It's something that I think about sometimes, but I try not to let it be a driver in terms of like guiding what the channel is about. But the number that is important to me here is that the estimated monetized playbacks is down from like 200,000 to 173. So my theory would be that I would get more monetized playbacks because of the fact that if people are watching longer, then YouTube would feed my content to more people. So it looks like that number is down. So that's a bit of a disappointment. It just could be that the January numbers, the January videos aren't as good as the November videos, or it could be that my hypothesis is wrong, that taking the mid-roll ads out doesn't in fact lead to more watch time and view time. So the results to me seem to be pointing towards the idea that taking the mid-roll ads out didn't really help me. Because here's my kind of next hypothesis for it, is that having the mid-roll ads in there makes money for YouTube. And ultimately, YouTube likes and pushes the things that make money for YouTube. And so if I've taken off those mid-roll ads, maybe YouTube is like, I'm not as excited as pushing this potentially good video when I have 1,000 other potentially good videos that I can make more money on. So I don't know if that's part of the algorithm or not. The skeptic in me, or kind of the pessimist in me, probably says it is. I was hoping that I can kind of like, you know, not hack it, but kind of get around that and make YouTube in a way suggest me more often just because people were really, really liking it. But it doesn't look like so far that has made a significant impact in the data in the way that I wanted it to. In fact, it seems like not only am I taking a bit of a revenue hit, it looks like my views are down a little bit too. Although, if we go way, way back to my overall dashboard, I'm still, pretty much even in terms of the last 28 days in views and watch time. So a couple of different ways you can kind of draw conclusions from this data. I think ultimately I like not having the mid-roll ads on my video, so I'm going to keep doing this for a little while longer. We'll see once temperatures start to warm up and people are more interested in running. The winter is usually a pretty tough time for a running YouTube channel. So we'll see kind of like what that does. I'm going to keep doing this for a little while longer. and see what effect that has. So let me know in the comments if you have any questions, or better yet, feel free to stop by the live stream I do just about every day here on YouTube, 3 p.m. Central Time. You can always feel free to ask me anything you like there. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of the video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?